Hey guys, Novaexplosion, and welcome to my review of Live Alive, specifically the HD 2D remake on modern consoles, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, PC. I think it's on PC. Anyway, I had the pleasure of replaying this game. This is my second time playing through the game, and I thought I'd make a review on my thoughts. And how I want to start is that this game is amazing. It is fantastic. It is one of my favorites. But let's get into what exactly I love about the game and what it does well. And there's some things I don't think there's some negatives with it, but we'll get to that soon. Well, let's get the easiest part out of the way with the music. And the music is nothing short of amazing. Like, you got so many iconic tracks. You got Megalomania, one of the best boss themes of all time. You got some hype moments, and something really cool about Live Alive is the music really fits with the theme of the game, which is different time periods. There's different music for each timeline, and they all fit their world so well, like the prehistoric music and the near future music, and even the China music. It all fits the time period so well. I think that's a good segue into the story of Live Alive. So Live Alive doesn't exactly play like a lot of other RPGs in terms of the story, but you start off with 7 stories, which are Japan, China, prehistory, near future, distant future, Wild West, and present day. You could choose any of those 7 stories to start with, and you have to finish all 7 of them to unlock an 8th story. And then after that 8th story, you will unlock a 9th story. But basically, the story of Live Alive, it has one big overarching plot, but you start off with 7 smaller sub-stories. And they're all really, like, good. I think what makes Live Alive's story work so well is a couple of things. One of them is these little stories don't overstay their welcome. They take you, on average, like 1 to 3 hours to finish. Some of the stories are barely an hour, some are like an hour and a half, others are like 3-ish hours. So Live Alive's stories don't overstay their welcome, and they're really simple tales. They kind of feel like fairy tales, and not fairy tales, it's probably not the way to put it, but they feel like short stories and little vignettes, but they have a good amount of depth to them. Like, they don't feel empty and half-baked. They feel established, and there are some great characters in these stories. I'm not going to go through all these 7 stories like right now, but I'll talk about like some highlights. Like in the near future chapter, you have the main character Akira dealing with seeking out revenge for what happened to his father. And you got how he deals with trauma, and some crazy stuff happens in the near future chapter. You also got the Imperial China chapter where you're playing as this Master Shifu, and you have to pass down your skills to any of the 3 disciples. And there's also the present day, which is super simple, and you go through a fighting tournament, and it has a nice message at the end of it. But all these stories are really good. I don't think there's a single bad one. I honestly, one more, sorry, but I can't go on without mentioning Prehistory, how it delivers a really engaging story without actual dialogue, which is so realistic for the time. But these 7 stories are really good, and honestly, they're not going to gel with everyone. I think maybe like 1 or 2 stories might not gel with someone, but the beauty of Live Alive is if 1 story or 2 stories doesn't resonate with you, some others will. They all feel so different. It feels like so many different genres and themes melded into one masterpiece. Me personally, I liked all these stories. I definitely liked some more than others. There's some I really love, and there's some I just like well enough. I don't think I hated a single one. There was never really a point of any of the stories that dragged for me. I think a big reason for that as well is I feel like these stories have like no padding and no fluffing, since again, they're like 1 to 3 hours each. So there's not really too much in the way of padding and fluffing. Now, Live Alive has some likable characters, like I really like Lei from Imperial China, and you got Akira from the Near Future chapter, and then some other great characters like I think Pogo has a good amount of character for Prehistory. Now, the characters in the game are really simple. I think the characters are simple. I don't think Live Alive is trying to deliver super complex and deep characters, but they're simple, you understand their motivations, you understand their characters, and this is a Super Famicom game, and I think they work really well. I think the characters, I love the characters. I would like, on an objective standpoint, I would never say the characters are super deep or complex, but I think what works is how simple they are. Live Alive is not, I don't think Live Alive is focusing so much on the characters and making them super deep. Live Alive just makes the characters and they work for their story really well. So I really love the characters of Live Alive, and I see what they were trying to do. They were definitely trying to focus on the story. Now, I'm going to go into a little spoiler part here. I want to talk about some elements of the story which is so good, but if you have not played the game, skip to this number, because this part of the game I feel like you do not want to know if you plan on playing this game. It makes the experience so much better. But yeah, with that said, let's get into some spoilers about the story. So, when I mentioned Live Alive's 7 stories, after the 7 stories you get an 8th story, the Middle Ages. And the Middle Ages sets up the main antagonist. The protagonist that you're playing as in Middle Ages becomes the villain. It's basically everything that's happening in the world, like he's framed for killing the king and everyone looks down on him, so this turns him into Odio, the Lord of Dark, which is like an incarnation of evil. And the cool thing about Odio is every single timeline has some kind of hatred in it. Like, there's a T-Rex in prehistory, which is the final boss, and there's also Odi-Wan Li in China. But every single little story has an incarnation of Odio. It's super great foreshadowing with simply the boss name, like Odi-10 in Distant Future, or Odi-Wan Li in China, like I said, and then Odo, I think, is the T-Rex, but it's super well done, like really nice little foreshadowing, and also it's just really cool. Like in the Distant Future chapter, I feel like hatred is pretty prevalent in the chapter where AI practically hates humanity and AI is practically the main villain. Like, I can go on and on about how there's so much deep undertones in these simple stories, and the chapters come together so well. So after the 8th chapter, you do Middle Ages, and Orsted, the main character of Middle Ages, is the antagonist. He's Odio, Lord of Dark. And then the 9th chapter brings all the characters together to stop this cycle, to end this cycle of hatred. And the final chapter is also beauty because it has so much gameplay elements. There's like optional dungeons, there's optional bosses. You can make this chapter as long as you want, and you can really build your final team and use all the characters together. I really loved it. It was very World of Ruin-esque in Final Fantasy VI, and I just wanted to play more of the game. But I really do love the story and how it comes together in the end. The ending of the game is fantastic. The final battle was fantastic. And in the true ending, you break the cycle of hatred. And there's also other endings, like you can kill Orsted, but that leads to a bad ending. And there's also an Orsted route where you can play as Orsted and fight all the characters. Like, you can fight, because Odio basically is possessing like all these final bosses of the chapters. So you can play as those final bosses and fight the characters as a little like exclusive route, which is cool at the end of the game. But anyway, the story in Live Alive is fantastic. It's simple yet complex at the end. Like, maybe not complex, but it's simple yet has a lot to love in it. And it's just great. I really love the theme of hatred. I love Odio. I love everything about it and how it all comes together. It's amazing. Now we're going to move on to the gameplay. And I think the gameplay is nothing short of amazing for the simple fact that it's really, really unique. Now, Live Alive is a turn-based game, but it has grid-based tactical elements. You move your character around, and every time you move the bar, there's a bar under the character's HP, which is kind of like their ATB bar, for lack of a better term. It's determined by the speed stat, how fast it builds up. But when you move on the grid-based field, the enemy's bar will move up a bit, basically. You can pass your turn if you want to pass to a different character. You can do an attack, and the cool thing about attacks is there's attacks that are instant, like they just attack, and there's also attacks that charge. So you really need to strategize when you want to use each of these attacks. Enemies also have different resistances and different vulnerabilities, and you can cancel enemy spells. You're more likely to cancel them if you use a move they're vulnerable to. So that's another thing you can do. All the characters have different play styles, and there's so many different moves. Now, I'll admit, doing the gameplay, like this game, I really think it's fun. You don't have to strategize too much for it unless you're fighting like the optional bosses, because the optional bosses can be pretty tricky. But you don't really have to strategize too much for it, because you can get into a rhythm of like spamming your best attacks and staying in one place, basically playing it out like a turn-based game. But I gotta give props to Live Alive's combat for being unique. Like, it may not be the most fun turn-based system of all time, but it's unique, and I appreciate it for how unique it is. It could be simple, and you could boil it down to like spam your ultimate attack, don't need to move, especially because the AI isn't super smart in this game. A lot of the time, the bosses aren't. But you can boil it down to use your best move, or you can move around the battlefield and utilize like different ranges. Another thing cool about Live Alive is there's no resurrecting in the same sense as like use a Phoenix down to get someone up. But to get a character up, you have two chances, or there's two forms of death, let's word it like that. When a character's HP goes down, they will die, but they are still on the battlefield. All you have to do is use a healing item on them, and they will get up. However, if the boss or enemy attacks a dead character, they are dismissed. They're not permanently dead, but they're dead for the rest of that fight. So it's really cool how when a character goes down, like, you just use an item and they can get back up. And characters also heal after every single battle, so HP is fully healed at the end of battle. There's no like MP system in the game, which I think might go into making the game a bit easy and make it a bit mindless at times, but I'm gonna be honest with you, while Live Alive might not have as much depth as games like Shadow Hearts from the New World or Grandia, I think Live Alive is unique, and I think that's enough of a reason to really like the combat. I always have fun with the combat. It was just really fun to use different characters and use different moves, and it may not be the hardest game out there or the most deep, but it's unique if nothing else. There's not many games like it in the combat department. But yeah, I mean, Live Alive, each of the stories, you know, you can move around. Another thing I want to talk about with Live Alive is each of the stories have different gimmicks. Like in Wild West, you're preparing traps to prepare for an ambush. And in near future, you have on-screen encounters. However, we're going to get to one of the negatives with Live Alive. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but the Middle Ages chapter, Chapter 8, and the final chapter, the last two chapters in the game, have random encounters, which is a little unfortunate, because here's the thing, right? You play like 15 hours of the game, which is like 80% of the game, give or take, 70 to 80% of the game. You play that without random encounters, and then you get to the final two chapters. It's a bit of a downgrade to have random encounters all of a sudden. Granted, the encounter rate isn't super high, but it does still kind of suck that you got used to playing with no random encounters, and it's like, oh, random encounter rate now. And the final chapter in the game can have a bit of backtracking, especially because when you recruit all your party members to join you, you can only have 4 of you at a time, and if you want to use other ones, you have to go back to where you originally met them. So that was a bit of an inconvenience for sure. But, I don't know, man. Like, I'm thinking of Live Alive right now, and I know people are going to be like, you're praising this game through the roof. Like, I cannot think of any, like, I can think of very few issues with it. Like, again, some stories might not resonate with certain people, but again, I think I like all of them well enough. Like, I have my least favorites, like I think Japan is one of my least favorites, and I think Prehistory is towards the bottom, despite really liking it for no spoken dialogue. And I know Distant Future is hit or miss, but overall, I don't think any of them are bad. I think they all have their place. And another thing I wish about the game is, in the final chapters, I really wish they brought all the characters together a little bit differently. I think I would have made the final chapter, like, shorter if it meant to bring each character and pair them off, because all these characters are from different timelines. I think it would have been cool. This is not so much a negative, this is like, what if I was making the game? I would make it where a character like Lei or something can interact with another character from a timeline. Like, add a bit more interaction, at least one more chapter, at least pair them off, and then they all come together, I think would have done enough for this game, for sure. And another thing about Live Alive is, it's really short. It's like a 20 to 25 hour game. So it's on the short side, and I think it really works well as a shorter game. I think that's what they were going for, and I think it works super well. You do the 7 stories, you get into the end game, and then you can put it down, and then you can play it again if you really enjoyed it. Like me, this is a game I can see myself returning to like every 1 to 3 years. And if you're not vibing with a chapter, you can also end the chapter. You can not end the chapter, but you can quit the chapter temporarily, try another one, and then resume that chapter, which is really cool. Like, man, I just rambled. This is like my longest review, but I love this game. Live Alive is one of my favorite games of all time. I don't think it makes my top 5 just because there's games I love a little bit more than it, but Live Alive, definitely a top 10 game right here. Like, amazing game. Really, really love it. I just love the ideas. It's so experimental, but it does everything so well, and it's not perfect, but for me, this is as close to a perfect game as you get. So that's why I'm going to give Live Alive a 9.5 out of 10. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this review and my recent redux of Live Alive. And yeah, it's a game I'll see myself returning to one day. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all for my next review.